The Rothschilds didn't inherit the world. They built it, brick by brick, war by war, century by century. Level 1. The Coin Changer's Son. You are born in a ghetto, not a metaphor. A literal walled ghetto in Frankfurt, Germany. 1744. The street is called Judengasse, the lane of the Jews. You cannot leave after dark. You cannot own land. You cannot hold a government job. You are nobody. But your father, Mayor Amschel, he sees something the world doesn't. He sees that everybody needs money, and nobody wants to deal with the people who move it. He starts small. A coin shop. Dark little room. Smells like copper and mildew. He trades rare coins to German noblemen who think they're too important to count their own money. He studies every coin like it's a map. He learns what things are worth versus what people think they're worth. That gap, right there, that's where he lives. You watch him work. You watch him smile at men who sneer at him. You watch him bow, and then turn around and write the number in his ledger. He never forgets a number. Not once. By the time you're a teenager, you understand the first rule. Money has no religion, no nationality, no conscience. It goes where it's needed. And the man who moves it controls everything around it. Level 2. 5 sons, 5 cities. Your father doesn't build a business. He builds a network. Before he dies in 1812, Mayor Amschel does something no banking family has ever done before. He sends his 5 sons to 5 different cities. Amschel stays in Frankfurt. Salomon goes to Vienna. Nathan, the most dangerous one, goes to London. Kaman goes to Naples. Jacob goes to Paris. 5 boys. 5 capitals. 5 nerve centers of European power. And here's what makes it lethal. They communicate in code. Private couriers. Encrypted letters. A postal network faster than any government's. While European kings are waiting days for information, the Rothschilds already know. They know who's winning wars before the newspapers do. They know which currencies are about to collapse. They know which governments are about to beg for loans. And when a government begs for a loan, the Rothschilds answer. At their price, you start to understand what your father really built. Not a bank, a spiderweb, and every throne in Europe is sitting in it. Level 3. The London Play. Nathan Rothschild is the one who changes everything. He arrives in London in 1798 with a suitcase and a plan. He doesn't walk into high society. He walks into the textile trade first, learns the language of British commerce, makes contacts, builds trust, stays quiet. Then he moves into government bonds. And then he does the trade. The Battle of Waterloo. Napoleon versus Wellington. All of Europe is holding its breath. If Napoleon wins, British bonds collapse. If Wellington wins, they skyrocket. Every investor in London is frozen, terrified. Nathan has a courier network that stretches across the channel. He gets the news of Wellington's victory a full day before the British government does. A full day. You know what he does with that information? He goes to the trading floor at the London Stock Exchange. He stands at his usual column. They literally call it the Rothschild Pillar. And he starts selling British bonds. Slowly, deliberately. Other traders watch him. If Nathan Rothschild is selling, it must mean Napoleon won. They start selling too. Panic spreads across the floor. Bonds crash. And then, quietly, through his agents, Nathan buys everything. Every bond, at the bottom price. The next day, the news breaks. Wellington won. Bonds explode upward. Nathan Rothschild just multiplied his fortune 20 times in 48 hours. The British government has no choice. They go to him for the loan to pay for the war they just won. He owns them now. Not legally. Not on paper, but in the only way that matters. Level 4. Financing both sides. Here's where it gets dark. Really dark. The Rothschilds don't pick sides. They finance sides. During the Napoleonic Wars, Nathan in London is financing the British war effort. At the same time, his brother Jacob in Paris is financing France. Think about that. The same family, the same blood, funding both armies, both governments. It's not betrayal. It's strategy. Because when the war ends, whoever wins owes them. And whoever loses needs a loan to rebuild. The Rothschilds win every war. Not because they fight, because they fund. They finance the defeat of Napoleon. They finance the Congress of Vienna that redraws Europe's map. They finance the railroads that industrialize the continent. They finance the Suez Canal. Britain needed £4 million in 48 hours. The British government couldn't raise it in time. Prime Minister Disraeli sends a messenger to the Rothschild Bank. Can you do it? The answer comes back without hesitation. Yes. No committee. No board vote. No shareholder approval. One man's word. For £1,000,000. Overnight, you start to realize these aren't bankers anymore. They're the hidden infrastructure of the modern world. Level 5. The price of power. But power like this doesn't come without a cost. You're inside the family now, and you start to see the things they don't put in history books. The paranoia, the secrecy, the rules. Mayor Amschel's original will had one instruction above all others. Keep the money in the family. His sons married their cousins. Deliberately, strategically. Of Mayor Amschel's grandchildren, 18 out of 36 married within the Rothschild family. This isn't tradition. It's architecture. Wealth doesn't dilute. It concentrates. The family tree becomes a fortress. And inside that fortress, the pressure is suffocating. You are not allowed to fail. You are not allowed to lose. You are not allowed to talk. Every deal is secret. Every communication is coded. Children grow up knowing they carry a name that is both a shield and a target. Anti-Rothschild conspiracy theories spread across Europe like wildfire. Some of it is anti-Semitic fury. Some of it is just fear. Fear of what it means that 5 men in 5 cities can move more money than entire governments. Assassination threats come. Riots outside their banks. Pamphlets calling them the kings of kings. And through it all, the family stays silent. Stays disciplined. Stays invisible. That's the rule above all rules. The most powerful people in the room never look like the most powerful people in the room. Level 6. The American Century. By the mid-1800s, Europe is theirs. So they look west. America, a young, hungry, chaotic country with no central banking system. A country that needs capital like a fire needs oxygen. The Rothschilds move carefully. They don't plant a flag with their name on it. They work through American agents. Auguste Belmont, born Auguste Schönberg, becomes their man in New York. He changes his name, becomes a socialite, enters American high society, and quietly, invisibly, channels Rothschild capital into American markets. They finance railroads. They stabilize the U.S. dollar during the Civil War panic of 1863. When the U.S. government can't sell its own bonds, they step in, always at the right moment, always at their price. You understand the pattern now. Crisis is not the enemy. Crisis is the product. Every panic, every war, every collapse. There's a moment, right at the bottom, where someone with enough capital and enough nerve can buy the world for pennies. The Rothschilds have been at that moment, every single time, for 200 years. Not by accident, by design. Level 7. The Empire at its peak. By 1900, the Rothschild family controls something almost incomprehensible. Historians estimate their peak wealth, adjusted for today, somewhere between $350 billion and $1 trillion. Let that land. Elon Musk's fortune in 2024 is around $200 billion. Jeff Bezos, $170 billion. The entire GDP of many nations. Less than what one family held in bonds and assets. They own banks across 5 countries. They own the De Beers diamond mines through a partnership with Cecil Rhodes. They control a significant portion of the global gold market. They have financed every major European power. They have seats at tables that don't officially exist. And they are obsessed with staying invisible. No Rothschild becomes a prime minister. No Rothschild becomes a general. They remain private bankers. Because here's what 200 years of power teaches you. Thrones get overthrown. Bankers get paid. Politicians rise and fall. Generals win and lose. But the man who holds the debt, he remains. Level 8. The fractures begin. Then comes the 20th century. And for the first time, the empire starts to crack. Not from outside attack. From within. World War I destroys the old European order. The empires the Rothschilds built their world around, Habsburg, Ottoman, Romanov, they collapse. The map gets redrawn. Currencies destroyed. Entire economies wiped overnight. And the family, for the first time, is scattered by something they didn't finance. Ideology. Nationalism. Fascism. Communism. These movements don't want loans. They want blood. In Austria, the Nazi annexation in 1938 is catastrophic. Louis von Rothschild is arrested at the Vienna airport. He sits in Gestapo custody for over a year. The family negotiates his release by surrendering the entire Austrian Rothschild steel empire, one of the largest industrial fortunes in Europe. Gone. Overnight. Signed away for one man's life. The family loses assets across France, Austria, and Germany. Art, property, gold, looted systematically by the Third Reich. Some of it never comes back. You realize something sitting with this. The Rothschilds bent kings. They broke empires. They survived revolutions, panics, wars. But even they couldn't survive the moment when power stopped caring about money and started caring about elimination. Level 9, the reinvention. But they don't disappear. That's not how this family works. After World War II, the Rothschilds rebuild. Quietly, methodically, in their way. The British branch, under the legendary Nathaniel, Lord Rothschild, re-enters global finance. They advise governments, fund ventures, back mines in South Africa. In France, the family returns to banking under Guy de Rothschild. He rebuilds the Paris Bank from rubble. By the 1960s, they're back at the center of European finance. But the world has changed. Central banks now exist. Governments control their own currencies. The specific leverage the Rothschilds once held, financing wars, controlling gold flows, being the only source of emergency capital. That model is gone. They adapt. Investment banking, private equity, wine estates, real estate, art collections worth billions. They become diversified, less visible, less central, and maybe that's exactly what they wanted. Because the question that follows the Rothschild name forever is, how much do they still control? Nobody knows. Level 10, the final question. Here's where you are now. The story doesn't end with a crash. No dramatic courtroom. No final ruin. The Rothschilds don't end. They evolve. The name is quieter now. The banks have merged, sold, rebranded. N.M. Rothschild in London still operates, one of the most prestigious advisory firms in the world. But the scale of visible power, it's a fraction of what it was. And that's the part that makes historians uncomfortable. Because the real Rothschild lesson was never about money. It was about systems. They didn't just earn money. They built the infrastructure through which money moved. They didn't just fund governments. They became the mechanism governments depended on. And when you build the mechanism, you don't need to own the outcome. You just need to sit at the center of the network. Think about that. In a world of trillion-dollar tech companies and algorithmic trading, who sits at the center of the networks now? Who controls the flow? Who knows first? The names change. The structure doesn't. And maybe that's the most Rothschild thing of all. The empire of shadows doesn't announce itself. It doesn't have to. It's already everywhere you look. The greatest trick power ever pulled was convincing the world it had retired.